Really, the concern with particulate matter is that it's breathed in and can go deep into our lungs and actually lead to things like lung cancer, worsening asthma, worsening COPD. So it's really a concern regardless of whether you live in a city or a small farm town or out in the boonies.
Hi, I'm Lindsay Croke. I'm your Director of Communications and Marketing for ILCorn, and today I'm joined by Bailey Arnold. He is the Director of Healthy Air Solutions for the American Lung Association. How are you today, Bailey?
I'm well. Thanks for having me, Lindsay.
Great. We're excited to chat today. Let's jump right in. I want to talk a little bit about the American Lung Association because you guys have always been really supportive of higher ethanol blends. Can you talk about why ethanol plays a role in cleaner air in healthier communities?
Yeah, so we've been promoting ethanol as a cleaner air solution for over 20 years. And really what we recognized early on is that ethanol can be used as a replacement for harmful chemicals like BTEX that we find in traditional gasoline. So that's benzene, xylene, toluene, and ethylbenzene. And those are really toxic compounds that impact our lung health and can lead to things like lung cancer. So we saw basically that the higher blend of ethanol that you put into the fuel, the better air quality we see out of the tailpipe. So we're reducing those emissions and providing a benefit for lung health and public health for that matter.
It sounds like you study air quality quite a bit. Those are all words that I don't feel necessarily familiar with in the ag industry. I'm glad we have people like you working on those. I can imagine that this is really important and impactful for urban communities. Does it matter for rural communities?
Yeah, so just like folks living in urban communities like Chicago, Bloomington, Normal, Decatur, and elsewhere, folks living in rural communities like the small farm town that I grew up in are also impacted by particulate matter. Really, the concern with particulate matter is that it's breathed in and can go deep into our lungs and actually lead to things like lung cancer, worsening asthma, worsening COPD. So it's really a concern regardless of whether you live in a city or a small farm town or out in the boonies.
I love that.
Now it's time for Tara's Corn Corner.
Which is scarier, equipment breaking down or your spouse being mad?
Spouse being mad.
What farm tool would make the best dance partner?
A rake.
If tractors had personalities, which one on your farm would be the class clown?
8430.
And what is your favorite tractor?
8335.
What does your research show, if you can dig in a little bit deeper, about how higher ethanol blends really do impact emissions? And I mean, I don't know if you have an answer to this, but what would it look like with like an E15 versus if we were able to get to like E10 to E15 or an E85? Like, what are the differences there? Do you have that?
Yeah, so we've actually worked pretty closely with the Hormel Institute and the University of Illinois' Energy Resources Center to study higher ethanol blends for a number of years. And we've actually seen that the higher blend that you put into gasoline, the lower those emissions are, and so the greater improvement as you increase those blend levels. So we know that it's replacing those harmful chemicals that are put in there, those harmful compounds. The more you're replacing of those harmful compounds that are found in traditional petroleum gasoline, the better it is going to be for our lung health and our environment. So we know that as you continue to displace the level of gasoline, you're also then lowering carbon emissions, which is an additional benefit, not only to the lung health, but the environment.
I'm going to ask a different question here. I have talked with a lot of farmers who don't realize that Chicago is defined as like a non-attainment area. And that has to do with, I think, the smog and the air quality in Chicago. And perhaps they've had access to higher blends maybe longer than some of the rest of the state. Can you like give us some history on that? I find that really interesting.
Yeah, so Chicago's been in non-attainment for quite a while, and what that means is that the level of particulate matter, nitrogen oxides, and other pollutants in the air exceed national standards of what's acceptable. And so Chicago actually has had reformulated gasoline, which is just a different type of gasoline, for a number of years, and that actually provided a benefit for Chicago area communities because they could use E15 when it wasn't allowed to be used year round. So it made it easier for retailers to implement that cleaner fuel. And so we know that it's, again, providing cleaner air out the tailpipe. We know that it's reducing overall greenhouse gas emissions and benefiting those communities. So it's one of those, tools in the toolkit that you can use to help lower emissions. Same thing with E85. There are a number of fleets in the Chicago area where E85 was actually the first alternative fuel that they implemented. They saw that it was lower carbon, that it was cleaner, it was burning cleaner, so it was better for our air. And so I remember working with the Illinois EPA back in the early days, and actually with ILCorn to install E85 pumps in the Chicagoland area, as well as downstate, to offer those ethanol blends to the communities.
So most of our audience that's watching today grows corn. So maybe a different audience than you're used to talking to in Chicago or other communities. But how do you see farmers as a part of the solution to this sort of overall problem of particulate matter in our air that we're breathing into our lungs?
Yeah, well, I think farmers are really well positioned to provide the solution in a number of ways. One of which is that they're already producing the products that we need to make these fuels, to make ethanol, but also to make new and emerging fuels like sustainable aviation fuel that provide a greater benefit by, again, reducing emissions both in urban and rural communities. And so that's one way that we see farmers as part of the solution. But we also know that farmers are continuing to improve their practices through innovation, as well as through on-farm practices like no-till, cover crops that are helping to improve soil, prevent erosion. All of those things combined really benefit our overall lung health by reducing the amount of particulate matter that's actually released into the air. So we really see farmers as part of the solution. And really beyond fuels, we know that there are commercial industrial products like plastics that can be made from renewable content like corn. And if we're displacing or replacing petroleum, that's a benefit to all of our lung health.
Bailey, I really want to point out to our audience, too, that American Lung Association has been a really, really valuable partner with ILCorn in this transition to including more ethanol in our fuel blends. And I mean, most recently, you guys were with us at the Farm Progress Show, but for years, I've had a long history here, and you guys have been with us for years talking to consumers about higher ethanol blends and how much cleaner ethanol burns. And that's a really important message. I want our farmers to realize, what a valuable partner you've been and how valuable it is to have a third party verifying some of the things that farmers and our associations are saying. So thank you for that. Do you have a favorite part? I know you've exhibited with us at NASCAR, Farm Progress Show, like State Fair, all these kind of different opportunities. What's your favorite part?
Well, first off, I want to thank the Illinois Corn Growers Association, the Illinois Corn Marketing Board for our long partnership and history together. I know the partnership predates my time here at the Lung Association, and we've really been lucky and blessed to work with our corn farmers and, all the folks involved. But I know for me, I think one of my, fondest memories was at Chicagoland Speedway. It's been a few years ago now. Kenny Wallace actually came to the Biofuels education booth that we had there, and we were able to really engage with attendees of that race and talk about the benefits of ethanol, not just from a performance standpoint, but from an air quality and health standpoint. And I think it really resonated with a lot of folks. That was certainly one of my favorite experiences. I also remember when I first came on, we had just funded some of the earliest E15 sites in the Chicagoland area. And we went to a Thornton's location, and we were literally walking up to people and handing out coupons to them and talking about how ethanol was better for their lung health. And I know, as someone that was fresh out of college at that time, that was a lot, for somebody to just walk up to a stranger and say, "Hey, have you heard about ethanol? You should use this product." But I have a lot of fond memories from events like that. And I really give kudos to the late Dave Lose. He taught me a lot. I learned so much from that man and really appreciated working with him and continuing to work with the folks at Illinois Corn. It's really great to be part of that family.
Okay, Bailey, we're going to move on to everyone's favorite part of this episode. It's not to be corny. Are you ready to get corny?
I'm ready.
Okay. What is the favorite band of the American Lung Association?
I don't know.
Air Supply. It's a good one, right?
That's a good one. You know,
You're going to want to keep.
a fun fact that people don't know, our CEO actually is a really great guitar player.
Oh, I think I mean, I feel like you should keep that joke in your back pocket,
I like
and
that.
maybe your CEO should learn some of your supply.
No,
So
I'm going to keep that one for sure. I'm definitely going to use that.
great. Well, Bailey, this has been really delightful. I really appreciated the time spent with you. Thank you so much for being a long-term partner and for sharing our message about cleaner burning ethanol with folks in Illinois and around the world.
Likewise, thanks again for the partnership and the opportunity.